take that feedback and rework your community or products to become where you are now, doing products in Singapore, big business.
How it's I'd say a lot of it is I have an idea. I think it might be worth trying. And because I'm always talking to folks, like whether I'm meeting up over coffee, meeting up in person, or or talking to people this way virtually, I'm always just kind of listening, trying to feel out patterns. But I don't know what's going to work. No product person really does.
I'd like to welcome you to the Corner Office Chronicles podcast. My name is Byron Benton, affectionately known as Byron the Product Enthusiast. This is dedicated to product management and entrepreneurship. So please, lend an ear, perhaps two. Tune into today's episode. Hello, everybody. My name is Byron Benton, and I'd like to welcome you to the Corner Office Chronicles podcast. I am your host. Today, I have a special guest. He knows all about building community. He has over 4,000, 5,000 subscribers. I estimate that he may have 10,000 hours online. That says a lot about his work ethic, a lot about his sense of building community. I'd like to welcome you to the legendary, and I do mean legendary, Jeremy Horn. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I don't know I don't know about any of those numbers. I wish I paid more attention to them. I know the meetup globally we have over 40,000. I know on YouTube we have over 4,000. I don't really know. I don't know if that's that many hours of video. It feels like a lot, but I've been doing it for about 11 years. So
Well, it
I don't
sounds
know.
good. It sounds good.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. If they're a little high, that's even better. I'll take. That's just make me feel good right now.
So if you don't mind, how did you get started in product? I mean, usually people, I mean, there's not a major in school for it. It may be business, and then people stumble upon it, or maybe see like a lot of business analysis go, to the product world. How did you get started in product?
I think I've kind of always had the inclination. When if you go back to I guess pre-college, I always kind of like to invent things and create things and find problems and solve them. I had a little bit like an inventor's notebook that I used to kind of carry around with me. And so at that time, that's kind of how I thought of product, was in seeing a problem, inventing it, at least on inventing a solution, at least on paper, and kind of playing around with that, making a few of the things myself over the years. But and then you kind of fast forward into the late 90s. Late 90s, I do my first startup. I'd say it was a bit obligatory at that time. If you were alive in the 90s, you either created a startup or joined a startup. So I created my first startup, which was actually network security and AI. So I've been doing AI for a very long time in my career. I'm just glad I'm finally cool.
Okay.
So I started kind of doing that, and I got my first job after I did my first startup. After that kind of crashed and burned, because I really maximized learning, and AKA making every mistake possible in my first startup. The After I did all that, then I went into and I got my first job. It ended up being VP of I'm trying to get it right. VP of new products.
Okay.
So I was brought into another company to basically help them kind of reinvent what they were. So they had a lot of users. They didn't know what to do with them. They really knew they needed to pivot their business, and I came in, kind of would iterate through kind of coming up with new products. I think even at that point, I don't think I thought of myself. I wouldn't have called myself a product manager. I think whatever my job after that, I was then starting to call myself product management. But I think I was definitely more of an unstructured product manager at that point in time. You're talking early 2000s at this point, around probably like 2002, 2003. And so I was very iterative, and I did a lot of kind of experimenting and working on stuff. But I think the formality started really closer to 2003, at which point, for those who were doing product management interviews at that point and kind of getting product management jobs, your job, the interview process generally entailed you in the interview telling the interviewer what a product manager was, and them saying, "Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that's what product managers did. We would like one of those."
Hmm.
And so that's kind of, I went from there to heading up product management at another startup. So I've worked in a lot of startups and large organizations over the years. And so it just kind of flowed naturally from, I think, my just inclination of wanting to solve, liking hard problems. I used to, even in college when I was doing work for the university, I was always introduced as the guy who liked, this is the guy we give the hard problems to solve them.
You're a problem
And
solver.
so I've always kind of, I've never cared about like a particular industry, a particular type. I like the hard problem, and that's kind of what has guided my career path more than really anything else.
Okay. How do you like, because you online, you're doing your own thing, you more your personality. Um, how do you like that as opposed to, I guess, working for a company? Because you are a business, kind of like the Jay-Z line. You're not a businessman, you a business man.
So I kind of see what people see of me online. I kind of see that as my hobby. So I do a lot of at the moment I do a lot of consulting stuff. I'm always kind of on the hunt for whatever that next CPO role is going to be.
Okay.
Uh, but I'd say I kind of see what I do. So in other words, you could say I'm a very well-rounded individual. I do product management for work, and then when I'm done doing that for fun, I do product management.
Yeah.
So that's kind of just been how, I think, just how I've structured everything since I started my blog, since I started everything. I it was kind of always just driven by what I felt was needed, what I wish I had, and then I would just kind of try it. I've always found that the things that I put the least thought into were the most successful, and so the things that I'm doing today that I started maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, just kind of they stuck, and I just kind of iterated and went with it.
Okay. Okay. If you don't mind, this particular episode, I like to speak about community, because you build a community, you know all about. It's like to take something from scratch and build 5,000 to 5,000, 4 or 5,000 subscribers. And I'm sure you have other channels too. So we'll say the amount is more than that. Uh, when did you first realize that the sense of community could make someone more successful, right? Because it's all about community. You know, the more people that we can get on board, the more our product could, the more we could increase the chances of success with our product. So how important do you think a sense of community is?
So I think, so what my perspective on I think there's a couple different parts to that. There's community for a product itself, and then you kind of have community as I've kind of created a lot of it through it really started through the product group. And back in 2009, I was using this thing called Twitter.
Hmm.
People may have heard of it.
Now,
It used to be a useful product, and back then you would tweet and you would meet people and you would talk to them and you would learn new things. And one day I was on Twitter and I was talking about a client I happened to be working with. Um, and as I was talking about it, someone had said, "Oh, I'm moving to New York City. Would you like to meet up over coffee or something? I'd like to kind of hear what the lay of the land is, what the landscape's like, what the market's like, just kind of get your take on it." So I went. I meant to meet up with them. The plan was to meet up for about half an hour at a coffee place, and just kind of talk about, what I won't say complaining, but observing about some of the clients I was working with. And it turned, instead of half an hour, it ended up being 3 hours later.
Mm,
We were still talking, and we said, wouldn't it be kind of neat if we could get more people together?
mm,
And so that evening, I went home and created the product group.
mm,
I didn't put any other thought into it. This is August 31st of 2009.
mm,
Basically, I created the product group and put together, basically launched it. And I launched it especially because, and I don't know if they still do this, but when you create a meetup or you create a new meetup on meetup.com, they back then there was this countdown timer, and it said something like, this meetup is going to start with or without you in the next like 24 or 48 hours or something like that. And I was like, oh, well, I just created a meetup. I don't want it to go to someone else. I guess I might as well really launch it. So I launched it. So the logo, most of the description you see, most of everything you see there today, I did on that day back in 2009. I spent all of September looking for the I'd say worst restaurant I could find. And the reason I was looking for the worst restaurant I could find, I used to wander around evenings all of September, different neighborhoods here in New York City, looking for restaurants that wouldn't care if people hung out and met, and maybe ordered or not. And so that's what I was looking for. Eventually, I found a restaurant. It turned out to be this Chinese restaurant where whatever you ordered was almost never what you got. But
mm,
that was fine. So we met, and by the second meetup, we kind of found our kind of secret sauce for how we did the meetups. And really, from the beginning, I used to go to meetups all the time, especially when I had my own startup, when I was doing when I was just networking, and this was really an anti-pattern. My meetup, in that I didn't want presentations, I didn't want like big talks, I didn't want anything kind of formal. So it was always important that it was kind of over a meal, round table style, kind of think big family meal or Thanksgiving. And basically you gather around and you kind of had two halves. You had the first half, we would talk about a topic, and then I stumbled into it in the second meetup. In the second half, we would talk about a featured product. And it was always about like, tell me about your product, the journey, the story. Like, so it's always about kind of cross-pollinating ideas, different industries, different types of products, digital, physical, but always kind of looking for, what's that problem you can't solve? You're among friends, you're among product people. Let's try to help out and see what we can do. And that's where we started back in 2009. Now we're 12, 13 cities around the world, over 40,000 members, that the product group's kind of grown into. And a lot of everything else that I've done, especially community wise, has really grown out of that.
wow,
Um,
wow.
yeah. So that's my somewhat long answer,
Yeah,
for
perfect,
that piece.
perfect, perfect. How long did it take for your stuff to really, sizzle, like to really connect? I mean, at first, maybe you didn't have any intro music, maybe you didn't have an outro,
I
maybe
never.
the
Well,
pictures weren't
the
right.
product group was in person.
Oh,
So
okay.
the product group itself was an in-person event, and we're still in person in London. We're working on finding a new venue here in New York City, and so the product group's always been this in-person roundtable thing. Like I said, over dinner. So when the events are large, I'll try to have some microphones that can kind of float around the room, for the low talkers. But in general, I try not to have any AV. I try not to have anything complicated at the events. The the way the event itself started, it started the event itself started very simply, in that I think the first meetup we had 10 people. Second one we had 3, and then I think, and then what it really ended up taking off in January, which is, I think, kind of normal for meetups, because that's when everyone does their New Year's resolutions, and everyone generally in January says, "Oh, I'm going to meet more people." And so in January of 2010, that's when the product group itself really took off. Then you kind of fast forward a couple of years, folks would ask if I could mentor them, if there's things I could do. to help. If I would mentor them, they would start asking after the meetup, and I'd say, "Oh, no, 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 I don't have time. I don't have time." And then one day, I think just one, it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, and I just launched basically a mentorship program as an MVP. I had said if I get 10 mentors and 10 mentees in a week, then we'll do a mentorship program. And no, at this point, I don't know what a mentorship program is really going to entail. I just basically sent an email out to the New York community. It ends up going worldwide. And so next thing I know is I'm getting hundreds of people saying they want to be mentors and mentees in the mentorship program. And from that, I end up, and from that, we then start meeting and doing this global mentorship program in over 20 countries around the world, to help people who are in product roles and kind of pair them up with mentors. And so once I validated the demand on both sides of that, I ended up building the whole program out of that. And then we ran for over a decade, working on maybe bringing that one back. The reason I mentioned the mentorship program, though, the mentorship program is probably, I think I'm right in saying this, is probably some of the first videos I start posting online, on the YouTube channel called The Product Way. And so I start posting the videos. Basically, every mentor in the program always gave a talk on a topic. And so every session, and we did 2 sessions a year, every session a mentor gives a talk on a particular topic. It could be advisory boards, it could be MVP, it could be interesting lean methodology strategies, lots of different topics, always trying to make sure there's something new, something fresh. And we would stream it online, take questions from the audience, from anyone attending, take questions from the mentees who were also joining, who would also be on camera. And so that's, I think, where a lot of the video content starts for the Product Way. And this is probably at least 10, 11 years ago.
Okay. Okay. So you got them involved, sense of engagement there. What do you think separates a fan base from a community? I remember when record labels used to have fan clubs for artists, and now it's all of a sudden Instagram, things of that nature. And that's kind of like a form of, like, a, a fan base. What do you think is the difference between a fan base and a community? Is there a difference?
I don't know. I haven't put a lot of thought into a fan base versus a community. I kind of a community. The way I look at just the audience, the people who follow, whether it's the blog or the YouTube channel or the Patreon that we just launched, that to me is the community. I think there are, sure, I'm sure there are fans, like I'll come across them when I do an in-person event here in New York, or I'll see positive comments put on a post maybe that I've done on LinkedIn. Uh, I think, sure, that's the fan base. Like, I'm really never thinking about that. I'm kind of really trying to figure out, as a community, what's needed, what's missing, what could I maybe do to help out, and that's really been the driving force, like, through all of this. It's the product group was, man, I wish there were other people that I could bounce ideas off of. Man, there's no there. I didn't have someone be my mentor.
Yeah.
I had to learn a lot of things the really hard way.
Uh,
And so it was it's always been like, what's missing. And so from the community, like, that's where, like, I'll send out a survey, or I'll ask some questions, and I'll throw that out to the community, and I'll just say, like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And there's things that I thought would do great, and everyone's like, nah, or they'll say they want it, but then no one will engage with it. But that's fine. Like, because there's that community, the community's there, and they're kind of they're living the challenge the same, and they have their own different perspectives. And like I said, it's also a global community, so it's interesting, and just the dynamics, the dynamic and the types of engagement you get from around the world.
okay. So for new leaders who want to follow the same path or similar path, how can we go about getting feedback from our community or from our fan base? Are there any creative ways?
Well, for me, I it's pretty like, well, if it's a video, I'll just say, hey, leave a comment or send me an email. Usually I get emails. At the moment I get emails more than I get comments.
All right.
And then because I've got the meetup group, like we've got over 40,000 people. I message the group all the time with new content that we're doing, or upcoming events that are going on. For example, we're launching a new meetup in Singapore. So I'm working on kind of getting the word out that we're launching our first in-person events in Singapore. And if you happen to be in the area, go RSVP and show up.
Wow.
So
Big
that's
thing.
have a lot of we have a large community, and they're very highly engaged, very easy to talk to, very easy to get feedback from. So it's not really. We're very fortunate in that, not having to worry about like how to find people or how to engage them at this point. But it's just taken a lot of years, a lot of time of just kind of letting it kind of build itself up by giving people content and giving them stuff that was useful.
Okay. Okay. And this thing may cut off in 5 minutes. If it does, can I get another 10 minutes?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Okay. One of the things I want to ask, how did that forming that community and the feedback, how did it evolve your community or products? How did you take that feedback and rework your community or products to become where you are now doing products in Singapore, big business?
I'd say a lot of it is I have an idea. I think it might be worth trying. And because I'm always talking to folks, like whether I'm meeting up over coffee, meeting up in person, or talking to people this way virtually, I'm always just kind of listening, trying to feel out patterns. But I don't know what's going to work. No product person really does. So it's just kind of, I'll throw something out there, see if it sticks. If it sticks, cool. If it
Okay.
doesn't, oh well, I tried. But it's not really, it's not being too married to any one thing. Like I'd say Google Forms is my biggest tool. Like if I've got an idea, I'll put together a form together, let people kind of send it out there, let people fill it out and see if something kind of comes together. Like right now, one of the things I'm trying to do is there's like, for example, a new kind of initiative that I just put out there is this thing called PM Select. And through PM Select, it's I get a lot of people always reaching out to me saying, hey, do you know a product manager that can do X, or do I know a leader that can do Y? And I always know someone. So I'm constantly connecting people up with jobs, opportunities, introductions. And so my idea is right now is, is this something of value I can do at scale? Can I help more people than just the few that I can remember off the top of my head? And so I'm testing out this thing with PM Select. Maybe it'll work out. I don't know. So right now I sent out a Google form. I said, if you're hiring, let me know. What is it that you're hiring for? If you're looking for a job, how tough are you having? How much trouble are you having? Help me understand your situation, and especially if I know you, let me see what I can do to kind of help you out. And so testing that out right now. We'll see if it works.
So thanks for watching today's episode of the Corner Office Chronicles podcast. Again, my name is Byron Benton, and I am your host, affectionately known as Byron the Product Enthusiast. Please like, subscribe, and tune in. Until the next time, thanks for watching.